Everyone, and welcome to blog 46 of Tackle the Feelings Before the Behaviour. And today's blog is called When Two Parents Can't Agree. And the reason I'm putting this together is that there's quite a bit of information out there for parents who have separated, step families, and how to co-parent with one another. But there's not much, I don't think, in terms of what happens when you get two loving parents who are together in a committed relationship who have very, very different parenting styles and ideas of how the children should be parented. And that's what I've been bumping into a lot at work lately, and I thought it's probably worth putting something out there because this is a big issue. And the problem with this particular issue, a relationship issue, is that it really seems to fester and escalate. And it gets to the point where you just start resenting one another as parents and as a couple as well. And it becomes a marriage or a partnership issue rather than a difference of opinions in terms of parenting. And often when I work with couples, I do break things down, and it often ends up being that you guys have just parented differently. Some people had a more relaxed upbringing. Some people had a more sort of rigid, structured upbringing. Some people believe that children should fall down a lot more than others. Some people believe in guidance in a stricter way. It just depends on your beliefs, your values, your personality, and most importantly, how you were parented. If you weren't parented in a way you like, you often have strong beliefs about doing something very differently and could get triggered by something happening that happened to you as a child. And the other parent might have the complete opposite, and then you butt heads. And it becomes quite important to you to get this right because your child is so important to you. This is probably the most important issue because you are entrusted to raise this child, to keep them safe, to protect them, to teach them, to guide them. It's a big role. And now add exhaustion and other life issues, financial problems. Maybe you've got other couples issues that haven't been worked out that you just don't have time to sort out because you are full-on parents. Life doesn't stop. Kids don't stop. They're always demanding your attention. So you feel similarly to my blog about parents that can burn out. It is like burnout in a way. You keep pushing and you keep pushing and you grow further and further apart from one another. And then it becomes an issue of, I don't know if I love this person anymore. I don't know if I want to be with this person anymore. It's gotten that big. And that's what I want to prevent today. And so when you're looking at differences of opinion in any relationship, the number one thing you need to think about is how are you communicating? How are you communicating your needs, and how are you communicating that you understand the other person's needs? That is very important. And that's where Tackle the Feelings, the approach of Tackle the Feelings in terms of emotions, comes in really handy. And I teach this to parents all the time. Validating and naming emotions is not just for children. It's not just something that we do for the little ones under 5 and then we just give up the whole approach. It's a lifestyle change. It's about being able to see beyond the context of a problem. Because if you stay in the context of a problem, you will forever go round and round and round saying, but he did this, and when this happened, and I said this, and she said this, and you didn't care about me that day, and then I did this, and it just can go on and on and on. And I'd like to nip that in the bud with the people I work with straight away. A bit of that's good to get some context and to illustrate your point, but if you get in this loop of constantly blaming, you will never get anywhere. You don't have to agree with people to validate their feelings. That's especially true for children, but it's for everyone. You can show someone that you understand them, that you hear what they're saying, what they're feeling, where they're feeling hurt, where they are feeling dismissed or ignored or angry. You can say things like, I can hear that you're really upset. I can see that this is such a big deal. I can see that when I did that, that really hurt you, and I'm sorry for hurting you, if you want to say sorry. Or you can say, I get that you feel this way. In fact, I feel this way too. Or I feel this, so it's hard for me to see when you feel that way. Talking about how you feel first, tackling those feelings first, is possibly the biggest diffuser of a big escalated expression of a problem. Because a person feels panicked when they don't feel heard, when they don't feel seen. It makes you want to keep trying to gain understanding, for people to understand you. You keep trying, and people think it's attention seeking when children do this. But what they're doing is trying to feel seen, trying to feel heard. It's not conscious when they're little. They can't think about these things. They can't premeditate any of that. But that is what's happening. When relationships, when you start seeing that breakdown, you'll often find one person or the other person is screaming to be heard, is screaming to get their point across. And they're doing it in a way that they want to feel right. But actually underneath wanting to feel right, you just want to feel heard. If you feel grounded, that you've been heard, and that things are being seen in the way you would like them to be seen, it's not as important for the other person to understand you or agree with you in that way. It is more important that they understand the impact it has had on you, and that they understand where you're coming from. And that is the same with parenting. When you're co-parenting, you need to be understood. You need your partner to at least support why you want to do it this way. And you need to be that person who also supports why they want to do it that way too. If you both can understand where you're coming from, that neither of you are actually malicious in this, that your intentions are actually the same. You want the best for your child. Your ideas of how to get there are different. So what you need to do is accept that if you are both coming from completely parallel or opposite sides of the spectrum when it comes to what to do in a parenting situation, neither of you are going to get your way. It's going to have to be a compromise. And the trick is to learn how to do those compromises in the moment before it escalates. If you're tuned into your partner, if you're tuned in to how they're feeling, if you're tuned into what is important and what isn't, and what needs to be taken through and what can be compromised on, you will be able to solution focus, problem solve the issue rather than fight and take it as a personal dig that you are not in control, that you have spun so far away from each other that you just can't meet in the middle, that you can't remember why you loved them in the first place because you want to rip your hair out. You avoid all of that. You also save a lot of time, because I watch couples spend about 15-20 minutes arguing about what to do about the current situation before someone gets up. Once the person's up, the situation with the child goes like this. If we eliminated the 15-20 minutes of arguing, you would have a lot more time and a lot less stress. And that's what it's about in parenting. It's trying to find corners to cut so you can give yourself that me time to relax, which is also important. It's also important for women, and this is an important thing I want to throw into this video, to allow fathers to do more, to get rid of this belief that men are useless, they can't caregive to the children, that they have certain roles. I'm going to be quite hard on this. I'm not even thinking culture and societal norms here. I'm thinking relationships. Both the mother and the father, the attachment figures for the child, are so incredibly important, and equally so for different reasons and the same reasons. It is your job as a parent to encourage the relationship with the other parent. Even if you have split from the other parent, it is really, really important to nurture those relationships and to gain as much consistency between you, to talk out, parents to talk out rules, how you want to parent, to plan ahead, to prepare, so that you're not continuously confusing the poor child who gets told yes by one parent, no by another parent, gets in trouble by one, gets laughed at by the other. It just is so confusing, and the child doesn't develop self-trust. They don't know what's right, and so they wing it. And then you start seeing tantrums and acting out and feeling clingy and leaning towards one parent instead of the other because there's no emotional safety. It creates anxiety. So it is an important thing to work on and get right. Whatever your family setup, you are the adult and have the maturity to be able to sit down and work things out. If you don't feel good talking face to face, do you need to look up other options? Do you need to email? Do you need to have a mediator? What do you need to create consistency for your child? How can you meet in the middle when you have two different approaches, two different ideas? How can you encourage the relationship with the other parent? How can you help the other parent to feel secure in the relationship with the child, to be supportive? Because you may have a lot of issues with your significant other or ex-significant other, but that should not impact parenting. Parenting should be separate. You have a child together, it's really important that that is prioritized, that this relationship between you is compartmentalized, that you can break away from all the other issues and the hurt and the relationship grown-up things that you are going through with that person, and really put the child's best interests first. It is so hard. So if you need to get support in this, if you need to nurture yourself, if you need to really get some perspective, however you need to do it, that I would say is the goal. To be able to prioritize the child's well-being, your child's well-being, and emotional safety. It can be done. Communication is the key, focusing on the feelings and the emotions and how the person is experiencing something, rather than he said, she said, and blame and the context of the situation. That will be incredibly helpful. It's a life skill. It's a really good thing to model to the kids. It's really good for all relationships, great for work. Just help people to feel seen and heard. So I hope that's been helpful. Happy co-parenting. Have a great week. Bye.